Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Bison Workshop. I'm Bob, and in this video I'm going to show a project I just did. Uh, as you can remember, yesterday or day before yesterday, I did knobs for a customer of mine, and when I had to make that, in order to do that uh, broaching for the knobs, because it didn't have regular knurling, it had grooves in it, and sort of like a scope knob. But that led me to build something I've been wanting to do anyway, and I just finally decided to go ahead and do it. An indexer for the lathe. Uh, so now I will be able to do indication on pretty much anything. So I'm going to pull you down here and let you see what I got. Alright guys, we're over here to the lathe and I've got the door open. Now there is a downfall to this. If you want to leave it on there, you can. So I can still close it with the plate on it, I believe. No, can't close it at all. So I have to end up taking my door off and building me a new shroud for it out of aluminum. We'll try to go around all these other contours. That's not what this video is about though. This video is about the indexer. So you got a hole in the spindle bore, and this is a 1947 Logan lathe. And I restored this, and it's only got a 7/8 hole in the middle of it. So it's a real small hole, and it's got a taper on the other end for, I think, a Morris taper 3. So this is the only way we can drive this, so to index it. So I made this plate because I still want to be able to open and shut my door on the top, and I decided to make this. I originally started out with this shape, but then I thought, nah, I want rigidness, and that would have thinned that out a little bit more than I wanted it to. So I decided to go this route, and I milled that out so that it would go around this beauty or dust cover, bearing dust cover. So I ended up putting 2 holes right here and tapped it for 1/4 20. So basically what I do is I took this little studs, and these are just cut off from some of the bolts that I have cut down like this, and it's stainless steel. So when I need a certain shape or length, I just cut it off, and then I keep this part in case because you can make a straight-headed set screw with that. Many things you can use it for, or for what I'm doing. So I'll thread it in. I've got my finger in there so I can feel when it's bottomed out. Once it's bottomed out to my finger, I'll stop, and then I'll put a nut on here. Now the reason I put this nut on here is to act as a spacer. So because if I put this up there, I won't be able to shut my lid. So I needed to back that out. So we'll go ahead and put this one in too. Alright, we're bottomed out. And then we'll tighten those down. Alright, so now we can put our bracket on it. And this bracket, I drilled it for the 2 holes to hold it on, plus the 2 holes for the next piece that's going to go on it. But the next piece has to be put on it before you put it on there, because you can't really get these screws, Phillips head screws, tight enough, because you're not getting a straight shot on it with this gear and stuff, or pulley and stuff in the way. So it's best to put this on first. So I'll go ahead and describe the next piece. This piece is to extend the indexer handle and to keep it lined up. So to keep that lined up, I milled this all out, and yes, it's crappy. I had to do some filing to round that off, but I don't really care. It can be cleaned up. This is just raw form. I'm going to clean it up and everything before I finish it. So that'll go in there like that, and I offset it so that I would have the maximum amount of travel. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put that on. I had to relieve this for the indexing wheel. So I recessed those. So now they're flat to the surface, or a little below the surface. So now we'll go ahead and put this on. Alright, so now we want to put that real tight. Alright, so now we can put this piece on. And I believe this would also be a way to do it on a, this very one may fit an Atlas too, an old Craftsman or Atlas. Might have to tweak some designs or something, or relief here, or change something minor, but the same concept would apply. So I'm going to push it down before I tighten it down so it stays parallel, which these are probably not parallel anyway. Helps if I go the right direction, right? Alright, so now that's pretty damn rigid. We're using 1/4 inch plate steel that I cut out of these round plates. And believe me, that's a pain in the butt to cut these round pieces out to get a square piece out of it. But this here was given to me by a guy, one of my subscribers that used to come to my house once in a while. And he gave me a whole stack of these things. And I still have pretty much 3/4 of the stacks left. So this was just a piece that come off of another project I did. I can't remember what it was. Alright, so now we got to put our indexer wheel on it, and I've got this thing all set up here, the drawbar made for it, and I just got a nut on it. I'm thinking about making a thumb wheel for this, big enough that I wouldn't need this nut, because I want to try to make this so that it's quickly, even putting thumb screws here would probably help you. So all you have to do is unthread the thumb screws and take the whole unit off. There's a lot of ways to do this, but I don't have no intentions of taking this off. That's why I made this, so that it can go on in that direction too. And when I'm done using it, I can just turn it around and put it in there like that, and it stops against this pin. This is the in use orientation, and this is the in rest. So several things I had to make here. Number one, this is a 3/8 threaded rod with a lock nut, one of them plastic insert lock nuts, and I've got it locked because it don't take very much pressure to hold this on. So then I got a washer that fits inside the chuck, but almost as big around as the spindle is, so that it wouldn't, you can put it in with the chuck on. So I can install this with the chuck on it. So then I went and 3D printed this piece. Now this is just a temporary piece. I'm going to machine one, but I'm going to machine the taper right here for inside the thing to help center it. And we're going to do these holes a little more precise on the machined piece. So that goes in. I got a lip on it so it goes against the spindle. So now we'll feed that through. I made that so, you know what, let me just take my chuck off, guys, because that's bothering me. Apparently, I 3D printed the bushing a little bit bigger, and I didn't realize it because I didn't have this thing on when I was making my drawbar. So apparently the hole in this is just a hair smaller, but that's not a problem. When I machine it, mine will fit. Alright, so then we put that in there, and that bushing that I made on a 3D printer helps to keep that centered. So then I made this piece to go in this side, and it goes in there, and there's very, very little play, but there's not going to be no play in my bushing. So put that in, then our plate. Now this bushing here, when I make it, I 3D printed it wrong. It's the right size and everything, but I printed the holes in the wrong location. So I need to do some changing. So when I go to make mine, I'll have this as a template, and I can use this as a template to transfer those holes onto that. So that way I can use some 1032 cap screws in here to hold this onto the pulley. So, but it's really not necessary. That was just something I just wanted to add. Alright, so then we got our plate that goes on with another bushing. This bushing is machined a pretty tight fit on that side, and it don't come out the other side. So it's about, I don't know, 2 or 3 millimeters shy of bend to the flush, so that it squeezes it against this plastic bushing. In fact, the plastic bushing is probably the way to go if I can just get the 3D printer to cooperate with me, because I have a hard time doing 3-hole patterns on a CAD model. Alright, so then we got our nut that goes on there. Oh, and you got to make sure that your numbers are facing out. And I had it right. Alright, so then we'll put our nut on there without dropping it, hopefully. Alright, the other side is a 9/16. So we'll just hold that, and we're not putting very much pressure on it. We're just, remember, we got plastic bushings. You just want to keep it from turning. Now, when I make my new bushings, I can press it a little tighter if I need to. Alright, so we got that installed, and there's a little bit of run out on it, and that's why I want to make that bushing, because I won't have no run out. So then I just borrowed the one off of my dividing head, and this way my lathe and my dividing head will take the same part, because you're not going to use both of them at the same time. So we got that, so that when I was doing mine, I was using it for the number 16, which is the second hole. Alright, and then you put your pin in the hole you want it in. Get that squared up by just turning, if you look, when I turn the spindle, see, I can move it side to side some. So I want to try to make it straight, just like that. Then I made a washer, and then I made a thumb screw. I'll probably end up making it out of steel eventually. Steel ones would work better. This aluminum, when you're threading it, it actually makes a bigger thread than it's loose on there. So I don't know what's going on with my taps. But it's a little, the threads are a little sloppy. So that's got to be changed. Now if I put thumb screws here, and they would be okay there, they wouldn't be in the way of nothing. So if you could put some, maybe a 1-inch thumb screw on there, you could just take that and thumb it off of there and just pull the whole unit off of there. So it works. I've already proved that because I made them handles. So that job is pretty much done. I'm thinking about putting a lock system on it, but I don't think it's necessary, especially if I do bushings out of aluminum and tighten that down. It's not going to move in that bore, especially if the other end is tapered. So that's going to have to be a steel bushing, because we're going to taper that to fit that taper, so that way it stays centered. You might have to just barely tap it with a dead blow hammer to get it out, but that's not a big deal. So, but now I can shut my door on the top. If you forget to put that up out of the way, you're going to break that pin off or something. So it's always a good idea to turn your chuck before you start your lathe anyway. If you can't turn it, then you need to investigate why it can't turn. So if you crash it, it's either you're not paying attention or you just don't know what the hell you're doing. One of the two. And I'm a victim of both. So that's my fix. This is also going to help me to make this gear. I've got a gear here that's got a tooth missing. I noticed it the other day. I've got a tooth missing right there. And let's see if there's any more of them in there. But I'm going to have to make me a gear for this. I don't think I have the steel for making that. Probably just buy a blank or something. I don't know. A machine is saying buy something. That sounds funky, doesn't it? But all the rest of them seem to be pretty good. I keep them blowed out. And this shield actually does keep stuff out. I thought about modifying this, but if I was going to modify this, I would buy another one of these doors and modify that one, and this one be untouched. Of course, it doesn't matter. This one's been drilled, tapped. So, I mean, there's only but so much original that you can have. But I'd like for the door to be original with this lathe. So if somebody takes that indexing off of there, then they can put their door back on it. But I've been trying to find me another lathe. I could use a second lathe. Can't we all, right? Yeah, it'd be cool to have another lathe. Not that big. Well, maybe that big, I don't know. And you guys look crooked. Stop looking at me all crooked. But The next project that I'm going to do is, I've already got it chucked up in the mill. Now I think you're pointing uphill. I've got the end cap off of my mill, and I'm getting ready to embark on a power lead screw for the grizzly mill. I'm so sick of sitting there cranking and cranking and cranking. I've had enough. So that's going to be the next video. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. You guys have a good one. Later.